Let's speak to the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, Outa. They have been campaigning for fuel costs to come down. I'm joined now by Wayne Duvenage. Wayne, thanks so much for your time. So this temporary tax relief, it's coming in from the 6th of April, which is next week. It's, of course, in anticipation of a series of price hikes in the coming months. Did the Minister do right today, or were you hoping for more?
Well, look, I think we should welcome any relief. This is a substantial relief. It equates to a loss of about 2.7 billion rand a month into Treasury's coffers, although they're going to offset that with some adjustments to the oil stock reserves. But it is a relief. We would love him to have given the full R3.85 per litre. As a reduction, but a sense that this is going to offset largely the increase that's coming on the 6th of May. Every first Wednesday of the month is when fuel prices are adjusted for the basic fuel price component, and that's expected to come in around R1.80, R1.90. So it will relieve us by, and the increase will only effectively be about 30 to 40 cents next month.
So the Minister is saying that this decision is not going to affect the national budget because they're actually going to sell off crude oil reserves to make up the money that they'll lose by not getting the expected revenue. Is it a wise move for us to be selling off crude oil reserves while there's this national, global uncertainty around the crude oil price?
Yeah, it is an interesting one, and I guess this is a situation where the authorities, the powers that be, have weighed up the risks. There's a risk of runaway inflation, and it's already high, and if we allow oil prices or petrol prices and diesel prices in South Africa to go up too high, there's a risk there in inflation and just commuter costs and so forth. As opposed to having oil stock reserves for a real emergency when, for instance, oil supplies dry up as a result of a war. Now, we know there is a war out there, or for whatever reason, and I guess they've weighed up those risks and felt that this is a prudent step to take. I'm not sure if they're using all the reserves, and by the way, our 10 million barrels, I think that's what it is, reserve stock is really equivalent to about 6 weeks of our current usage if it is all converted into petrol at the same consumption or volume rate. So, they've weighed it up, and I think this was the right move, and they can probably replenish those stocks later, obviously waiting for the oil price to come down if and when it does in 6 months to a year's time.
Of course, the 2-month tax reprieve, that's going to be covered by the sell-off of the crude oil reserves, as we've just been chatting about. But then after that, from June, there's going to be a range of measures that they're looking at, which are going to try and offset the price even more. So do you have a deeper understanding of exactly how that's going to work and how government's going to afford to lose the revenue there?
Yeah, well, we think that, and we've seen the discussions that are taking place around how and where they can. We've suggested this for some time. For instance, the DSML levy, the demand side levy that was introduced a number of years ago, that's become defunct. It's only 10 cents in a litre, but that's fallen away, or that will fall away in June. A couple of other tweaks here and there. But the big areas, additional areas where they can push it down is in the wholesale and retailers' margins. Now, obviously, they're fighting to keep those, and there are valid reasons why they should keep them, but there are also valid reasons why they need to be adjusted and reviewed as to the mechanisms and formulas that they use to work that out. But those aren't the big components. There's the excise duty that they could, again, small sense, possibly the carbon tax, because it's not really being ring-fenced for green energy projects. So there's a couple of areas, but I don't see them getting more than about 30 to 40 cents out of those decisions that they're going to make by June.
And now, of course, I can't let you go without asking you about the other big issue, and that, of course, is that the deadline for the renewal of driver's license cards that lapsed during lockdown was today. And I say was, because I'm going to read you something that has just been gazetted, and it's to do with the deadline. I'll read it for you, and then you can give me your comment. All learners' licenses, driving license cards, temporary driving licenses and professional driving permits that expire during the period that commenced from 26 March 2020 up to and including 31 March 2022 are deemed to be valid, and their validity periods are extended for a further grace period ending on 15 April 2022. So in essential, what we're hearing right at the 11th hour is that if you don't have your driver's license card, your valid one, you've got now till the 15th of April. What do you make of that?
Well, it's a very slight relief. Another 2 weeks is effectively. I think what he's hoping is to see the last sort of, I don't know what it is, it's anything between 500,000 and 1 million motorists apply for and get their licenses done by them. Remember, if your license has expired, you still have 3 months grace period if you can show it's been paid for. So I guess there is a reprieve. Last week they were saying very clearly they wouldn't be extending, so they are. And it's a good thing. Is it enough? We don't think so, and maybe not, but let's see what happens. Let's hear what he's got to say tomorrow. And but we do think that the minister needs to be working a lot closer with civil society to find solutions, because as much as they feel that this problem of booking online has been sorted out, it hasn't. It's a problem.
All right, so there is some relief. You've got now till the 15th of April to make a plan if your driver's license card has expired. Wayne, just explain in a little bit more detail. You talked about the fact that if you can show you've paid for your renewal but haven't yet got it. A lot of people paid for a renewal 6 months ago and because of the card machine problems haven't yet got their cards. What must they do?
Well, they've paid and they've had their license renewed. It's lying in the system. You know, we have a lot of problems where people go and collect their licenses months later and they're not there. They've been sent back. So again, administrative challenges that the department is having to deal with. I cannot see a police officer fining somebody under these conditions with this backlog and these problems. If they do, we would advocate that the motorists should elect to not pay that fine and to go to court and show that they've paid for it and it's not their fault, and I can't see any judge ruling against them. So it would be wise for the minister to put a call out to the peace officers to not exercise and become overzealous in situations like this.
All right. Well, thank you very much for chatting to us this evening. Wayne Duvenage of Outa, that's the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, commenting there.